They told me it was impossible. A $3.6 million Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport wrapped around a telephone pole at 180 miles per hour. The carbon fiber monocoque cracked in 7 places. The quad-turbo W16 engine twisted off its mounts. Every single body panel shattered beyond recognition. The insurance company had already cut the check, declared it a total loss, assigned it salvage title status, and sold it to a scrapyard for $47,000. That scrapyard sold it to me for $52,000, and I made a promise that everyone said I'd regret. I would rebuild this car to factory specification, document every single hour of the 2,400 hours it would take, and I would drive it again. My name is Marcus Hayes. I own a specialty hypercar restoration shop in Miami, and this is the story of how I spent 18 months and $890,000 attempting the impossible. What I discovered in the process would shake the entire automotive industry and cost me everything I'd built over 20 years. Because this Bugatti was hiding a secret that Bugatti Automobiles absolutely did not want the world to know. The Bugatti arrived on a flatbed truck at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in March, and even prepared for the worst, I wasn't prepared for this. The Pur Sport is already an extreme car, the most track-focused variant of the Chiron ever produced, limited to just 60 units worldwide, each one spec'd individually for its honor. This particular car had been finished in exposed blue carbon fiber, a $78,000 option that added absolutely zero performance benefit but made the car unmistakable. Or it had been unmistakable. Now it looked like modern art created by someone who hated modern art. The front end was completely gone, not damaged, gone. The impact had occurred at the right front corner, and the forces involved had literally torn the entire front clip off the car. The $45,000 carbon fiber front splitter, the $23,000 LED headlight assemblies, the $67,000 front bumper assembly with its active aerodynamic elements, all of it had separated from the chassis and been left somewhere on a highway in Texas where the accident occurred. The titanium brake calipers, each one worth $8,000, were ground down to half their original thickness. The carbon ceramic brake rotors, $12,000 per corner, looked like someone had taken an angle grinder to them for an hour. But the front end damage was almost irrelevant compared to what I found when I started really examining the chassis. The Chiron uses a carbon fiber monocoque tub, the strongest passenger cell ever engineered for a road car, designed to protect occupants in crashes up to 250 miles per hour. It had done its job. The driver had walked away with a broken collarbone and some bruised ribs, remarkably lucky considering the violence of the impact. But that protection had come at a cost. The monocoque had absorbed the impact energy by cracking, and carbon fiber doesn't bend like steel or aluminum. When it fails catastrophically. I counted 7 major structural cracks running through the tub, each one a death sentence for the chassis according to every structural engineer I consulted. My head fabricator, Diego, stood next to me looking at the damage with his arms crossed. Diego had worked for Pagani for 12 years before I'd convinced him to join my shop, and he'd seen crashed Huayras and Zondas that had been successfully rebuilt. "Marcus," he said quietly, "this isn't like fixing a Zonda. Those cars have tubular steel frames we can cut out and replace. This is a monocoque. You can't section a monocoque. You can't weld carbon fiber. If those cracks go through the attachment points for the suspension or the engine, this car is genuinely unsalvageable." I spent the next 3 days with a borescope and a structural ultrasound scanner, mapping every single crack in the carbon fiber. The news got worse with each passing hour. The cracks weren't superficial stress fractures, they were deep structural failures that had propagated through multiple layers of the carbon weave. Worse, two of them ran directly through the rear engine mounting points where the massive W16 engine bolted to the chassis. Those mounting points were designed to handle not just the weight of the 490-kilogram engine, but also the tremendous torque and vibration it produced. With the carbon fiber compromised, those mounting points would never be able to safely secure the engine again. I called my contact at Bugatti's factory in Molsheim, France, a senior technician named Philippe, who I'd worked with on previous restoration projects. Philippe, I need to know if there's any official Bugatti procedure for repairing structural damage to a Chiron monocoque. There was a long pause. Marcus, you know I can't discuss internal technical procedures, but off the record, if a Chiron comes back to the factory with structural monocoque damage, we don't repair it. We scrap the chassis and build the customer a new car from scratch. The monocoque isn't designed to be repaired because we never anticipated anyone would try. Those cars are supposed to be totaled by insurance and destroyed. So there's no technical service bulletin, no repair manual, no approved procedure? None that I can share with you. And Marcus, be very careful with this. If you're planning to rebuild that car and put it back on the road, you're accepting liability that Bugatti would never accept. If something fails because of your repairs and someone gets hurt, that's entirely on you. I hung up the phone and looked at the destroyed Bugatti sitting in my shop. Every rational part of my brain was screaming to walk away, to part the car out, to sell the undamaged components and cut my losses. The W16 engine alone was worth $250,000 to the right buyer. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, miraculously undamaged, would fetch $80,000. I could probably recoup my $52,000 investment and make a small profit. But I'd made a promise, and more importantly, I'd already posted about this project on my YouTube channel, where 2.3 million subscribers were waiting to see what happened next. I'd built my entire business on the premise that no car was too damaged to save, that with enough skill and determination and resources, anything could be fixed. If I walked away from this Bugatti, I'd be admitting that some cars really were beyond salvation. My brand would be destroyed. So I made a decision that would haunt me for the next 18 months. I was going to rebuild this car, regulations and manufacturer support and common sense be damned. I was going to develop my own carbon fiber repair procedure, source every single component needed, and document the entire process. And if I succeeded, I'd prove that even a totaled hypercar could be brought back from the dead. Act 2. The Parts Nightmare, 4:30 to 8. The first thing I learned about rebuilding a Bugatti Chiron is that you can't just order parts, not in any normal sense. Bugatti doesn't maintain a traditional parts catalog where you can look up a part number and place an order. Instead, each Chiron is essentially a bespoke vehicle, and parts are manufactured on demand for specific chassis numbers. When I contacted Bugatti's parts department with the VIN from my wrecked Pure Sport and a list of everything I needed, I received a very polite email explaining that they couldn't supply parts for a salvage-titled vehicle, that doing so would violate their quality control protocols, and that I should consider professional channels for disposing of the vehicle responsibly. In other words, Bugatti wanted this car destroyed. They didn't want a rebuilt salvage-titled Bugatti Pure Sport out in the world, potentially damaging their brand if something went wrong. I understood their position, but it left me with a massive problem. I needed approximately $620,000 worth of genuine Bugatti parts, and the manufacturer had just told me they wouldn't sell me any of them. So I had to get creative. I started reaching out to my network of hypercar dealers, collectors, and restoration specialists around the world. I found a Bugatti dealer in Dubai who had a Chiron that had been spec'd by a customer, built, and then rejected because the shade of blue wasn't exactly what the customer wanted. That car was being dismantled for parts. For $89,000, I acquired the entire front clip, including the headlights, bumper assembly, and splitter. The parts were the wrong color, but they were genuine Bugatti components with the right part numbers. The carbon fiber body panels were harder. The Pure Sport uses a unique body shape with more aggressive aerodynamics than the standard Chiron, and those panels simply weren't available anywhere. I eventually found a composite fabrication company in Italy that specialized in creating replacement body panels for limited production hypercars. They'd worked on Paganis, Koenigsegg's, and even a few Bugattis. For $147,000, they agreed to create a complete set of carbon fiber body panels for my Pure Sport, hand-laid in the same weave pattern Bugatti used, clear-coated to match the exposed carbon finish. The panels would take 6 months to manufacture. But none of that solved my biggest problem, the cracked monocoque. I spent 3 weeks researching carbon fiber repair techniques used in aerospace and Formula One. What I learned was both encouraging and terrifying. Carbon fiber can be repaired, but only under very specific conditions and using procedures so precise that a single mistake can make the repair weaker than the original damage. The standard aerospace procedure involves carefully grinding away the damaged carbon fiber, preparing the surface, and laying in new carbon fiber patches using the exact same resin system and curing temperature as the original component. Done correctly, the repair can actually be stronger than the original material. The problem was that aerospace repairs are done on flat or gently curved surfaces under controlled conditions. The Bugatti's monocoque was a complex three-dimensional structure with compound curves, internal voids, and attachment points that needed to maintain precise dimensions. And I had to make these repairs without cutting the chassis apart because the monocoque was bonded and couldn't be disassembled. I hired a carbon fiber specialist from SpaceX's Composite Structures Division, a materials engineer named Dr. Sarah Chen, who'd worked on the Dragon capsule's carbon composite pressure vessel. She flew to Miami, spent 2 days examining the Bugatti, and finally delivered her verdict. This is repairable, but you're going to need to build a custom autoclave to cure the repairs properly. You'll need to maintain temperature within 2 degrees Celsius for 16 hours while the resin cures, and you'll need to do it 7 times for the 7 major cracks. If any single repair isn't perfect, the entire structure could fail under load. The autoclave alone cost me $34,000 to design and build. It was basically a giant oven large enough to enclose the entire rear section of the Bugatti with precision heating elements and temperature sensors every 6 inches. We spent 5 weeks testing it with scrap carbon fiber to make sure we could maintain the exact curing temperature required. Meanwhile, I was slowly accumulating the other parts I needed: suspension components from a crashed Chiron in California, brake components from a European parts supplier who'd somehow acquired overstock from the factory, interior pieces sourced from 3 different continents. Every single part was a battle, every acquisition a minor victory in an exhausting war of attrition. My parts budget, originally estimated at $400,000, had already climbed past $550,000, and I was maybe 40% of the way through my needs list. And then I discovered the secret that changed everything. I was inventorying the damaged W16 engine, checking it for internal damage, when I noticed something odd. The engine block had a serial number as expected, but it didn't match the VIN of the car. I checked the factory build sheet for this specific Pure Sport, and the serial number was definitely wrong. This wasn't the engine that was installed in the car at the factory. I started digging deeper. The transmission serial number was also wrong. So was the serial number on the differential. Someone had swapped major components on this Chiron before the accident, replacing the original parts with components from a different car. And when I researched the serial numbers I was finding, I discovered they belonged to a Bugatti Chiron that had been reported stolen from a collector in Switzerland 2 years ago. This wrecked Pure Sport I'd bought for $52,000 wasn't just a crashed hypercar. It was potentially a VIN-swapped vehicle built with stolen components. And if that was true, I was in possession of stolen property worth millions of dollars, and everything I'd invested in this rebuild was about to become evidence in a criminal investigation. 18 months after that flatbed truck had delivered a pile of carbon fiber wreckage to my shop, I pressed the Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport start button for the first time. The W16 caught immediately, all 16 cylinders firing in perfect synchronization, the quad turbos spooling with that distinctive Bugatti whistle, the exhaust note rumbling through the titanium exhaust system like controlled thunder. Every gauge showed perfect numbers. Oil pressure, water temperature, transmission temperature, all exactly where they should be. The car was alive. I let it idle for 20 minutes, watching temperatures, listening for any unusual sounds, checking for leaks. Nothing. The engine ran perfectly. I put it in gear, eased out the clutch, and the Bugatti rolled forward under its own power for the first time in almost 2 years. Diego stood off to the side with his phone out, filming, tears running down his face. Dr. Chen was grinning like she just landed another capsule safely. My entire team, 15 people who'd worked on this car for 1.5 years, were watching something they'd been told was impossible actually happen. I drove the Bugatti around the shop's parking lot at 15 miles per hour, feeling every component work exactly as it should. The steering was precise, the brakes were strong, the transmission shifted smoothly. All the electronic systems that I'd spent weeks programming and calibrating were functioning correctly. The adaptive suspension was adjusting to the pavement. The active aerodynamics were responding to speed. This wasn't just a car that ran. It was a car that drove like a Bugatti, which was something I'd started to think might actually be impossible to achieve outside the factory. The FBI's sting operation went down 2 weeks later. I'd posted photos of the completed car on various Hypercar forums, mentioned that I might be interested in selling it to the right buyer, and within 72 hours I had 3 serious inquiries. 2 of them turned out to be legitimate collectors who knew the car's history and wanted it anyway. The third was a representative from a Luxembourg-based company that claimed to specialize in high-end automotive investments. Agent Morse confirmed they were the front company the theft ring used to move their rebuilt cars. The FBI let the negotiations proceed to the point where we agreed on a sale price of $1.8 million, about half what a legitimate Pure Sport would sell for, which was apparently standard for these gray market rebuilds. The buyer arranged to have the car shipped to Luxembourg, and the FBI arrested 5 people when they took possession of it at a shipping facility in New Jersey. Those 5 arrests led to 14 more in 6 countries over the next month. The whole operation collapsed, and apparently my rebuild video series had been the key piece of evidence because I documented every part installation, every serial number, every technical detail of the build. The FBI used my videos to track where the stolen components had come from and how they'd moved through the network. As for the Bugatti itself, it became federal evidence for the next 8 months while the criminal trials proceeded. The Swiss owner whose Chiron had been stolen got his engine, transmission, and differential back. The VIN in the monocoque was officially voided by Bugatti, making the chassis permanently valueless in their eyes. And I got a check from the federal government for $147,000 as compensation for my cooperation with the investigation, which didn't even come close to what I'd spent on the rebuild, but was better than losing everything. The car itself ended up being auctioned by the U.S. Marshals Service with a salvage title and full disclosure of its criminal history. A collector in Japan bought it for $380,000, considerably less than I'd invested in the rebuild, but enough to make headlines. That car, the impossible Bugatti rebuild that had consumed 18 months of my life and nearly $900,000, was now in a private collection in Tokyo, never to be driven hard, never to see a racetrack, just sitting as a conversation piece about the time someone actually rebuilt a totaled Chiron Pur Sport.